I'm here with Stanley and little black dog is Henry, and they get very excited for the walk. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how you can teach your dog to be calm while you're going through what I call the leashing process. Now I'm going to have Taylor move the camera over here. I just wanted to show you the leashes are kept right over here. This is when you're filming things, sometimes it's a little awkward setup. I just want people to understand why I'm coming over here. All right, so Taylor's going to walk over there. The first step we're going to do, there you go, is we want to make sure that the dogs are calm. Now, that's really the whole point of this exercise. We're really going to use the form of operant conditioning to teach the dogs that moving in front of us or getting excited actually stops the process of being leashed. Now, the energy your dog has in the house is the same energy that they're going to carry with in the walk. So if you have a dog that's really high energy on the walk and spazzy, well, this should help tremendously. But also another tip that you can use is exercising your dog before you take him for a walk produces a much better walk. So throwing some treats up and down the stairs, give him a fetch, whatever it is, some set games or things like that, and then give him 10 minutes to recover before you start the process I'm going to show you here. Okay, so the first step is really, there's two steps to this. First step is the dog can't walk in front of me to where the leash is. Second step is they have to stay seated while I'm grabbing the leash. So I actually have Taylor step out of the room, and basically I'm going to probably pantomime some of this, and right about there is perfect. So when you get ready to take your dogs for a walk, the guardians, I'm going to ask them a quick question off camera. Do you narrate? Do you say you want to go for a walkie-walkie? You want to go for a walk? Don't do that. So a lot of times we confuse excitement for happiness. But if a dog's, and if you want to shoot his mouth real quick. So see, we interpret that open mouth as a smile. This actually, he's tired or he's stressed or he's winning. Now, a dog can be excited and have their mouth open and be happy. But a lot of times they're just overstimulated and overexcited. How do they do when the mail carrier gets here?
Crazy.
Okay, so if there's an explosion, the mail carrier is going to be at the door in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So if that's why. So basically the first step is I'm going to not narrate. I'm going to walk over to where the leash is. Now, it's going to be a little bit interesting with the filming here, but the process is as I'm walking here, the dog's eventually going to recognize that's where they go to grab the leash. And when the dog recognizes that, it's going to race in front of you. Probably not going to do it for me here. First of all, we don't say walkie-walkie to get them all worked up. Remember, excited is not happy. Then we start walking, and as soon as the dog recognizes, let's see if Stanley will do it. Let's say that I was here, and Stanley moved in front of me. As soon as Stanley gets in front of my torso, I turn around, walk away, and I go sit back down on the couch. I wait for them to be completely calm again before I start this process again. Now we have two dogs here. You can do this with both dogs at the same time, but typically you'll move a little bit faster. You just work with one dog at a time, then take the other dog out and work with the second dog, and that help them learn the skill on their own is usually faster. And we're going to sit down and wait for them to be completely calm. Now, one of the tips of this is to practice this when you're not actually going to take your dog for a walk. Most of us think of this as cruel, but this is actually a concept called desensitization, and as a dog behaviorist, I use it quite a bit. So if you have a couple minutes, you're watching TV, it's a commercial break, pause your TV if you have DVR or whatever, and then just practice this for 2 or 3 minutes. And then when you're done, you go sit back down. For dogs that are super excited, I usually recommend my clients practice leashing them up 5 times for every 1 time they actually do go for a walk. It breaks the association. So I had a client in Los Angeles. It took 45 minutes of walking back and forth before the dog figured it out and said, as soon as I walk, my nose goes in front of him, he loses interest. So again, operant conditioning. As soon as the dog does something I don't like, I stop doing the activity. So I'm going to have Taylor follow me to the next stage. And Taylor's going to be right over here. And I'm going to show you kind of what we would do here with the dogs. So I'm going to just use Stanley here. Stanley, who's already downstairs. Stanley. So I tell the dog to sit. As soon as he sits, I reach for the leash. That's pretty good, actually. Oh. So that's a lot better than most people. Most people go like, they tell the dog to sit. Then they reach this far and the dog starts wiggling. I know what we're doing. What's coming next? This is an example of what's called classical conditioning. I pick up the leash. It's always followed by a walk. That's why I mentioned a minute ago, practicing leashing up without going for a walk will reduce that intensity and break the classically conditioned response. So sit. Now, okay, that's a great opportunity to talk about a lesson. So if I tell the dog to sit, it has 3 seconds to comply of me saying it the first time. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, the guardians hang out upstairs and downstairs. So I can either go downstairs or upstairs, and I'm going to sit down and wait for a period of time, not anything specific. If the dogs are really excited, wait for them to calm down. And then I start the process again, walking back here. As soon as they walk in front, I walk away. Henry. sit. This is why it's harder with both. So I reach. Henry got up. So now if you're doing it with both dogs, it's whichever dog you're going to leash up is the one. You could stop if either one of them gets up, but again, this is another illustration of why it's better to just work with one dog at a time. So I tell the dog to sit, and I start, at first it's this far, then this far, then this far. Eventually I pick it up. When I pick it up, I just try to make it, see that little sound caused Stanley to get excited. Those sounds are what we call triggers. So when I do actually get to the point where I pick it up, again, the dog has to stay seated the whole time. And once I pick it up, I'm jiggling and making as many noises as I possibly can. So going back to the sitting part. So I say sit. If they don't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away. Let's say that he did sit, and I reach for it. He got up, I stop, and I say sit. I wouldn't normally do this hand motion. I'm just doing this because it would look better on video if you were doing what we want. But if he didn't, then I would walk away completely. This is why if we're not practicing planning to go for a walk, we don't really care because we weren't going to go for a walk anyways, and it lowers the intensity level. So let's say that he did sit. That's a dance. That's the opposite of sit. Sit. So then I reach, he gets up, I tell him to sit again. If he sits within the 3-second window, I would reach again. And then if he stops, I stop. And when I stop, don't just leave your hand here. Stop, pull your arm back, sit. If you're leaving it here, it's like, but you're getting ready to walk. So I pull it back, sit. If they sit, I usually say sit about 3 or 4 times, not in a row. But the dog gets up, I say sit, and I reach again, gets up, stop, sit, sit, sit. Next time, I just stop, and the dog kind of is an autopilot. It should be. And I just stop and wait. If they sit within that 3 seconds when I'm not saying sit, after saying about 4 or 5 times, then I go sit back down again. After a while, the dog will recognize getting up out of the sit stops us from going for the walk. And so this is mostly for Stanley. I mean, they're both excitable dogs, but most of us get confused dogs, like I said earlier, about the excitement. And the excitement is when they make the most mistakes. And Stanley, being substantially bigger than Henry, is going to cause some problems as well. So if we teach both of the dogs to be very calm separately, once they both will stay seated, I can pick it up and I can attach it with Henry, and I can do the same thing with Stan separately. Then I'm going to bring them both together, sit, pick up one leash, attach it, drop the leash. That dog stays seated. I attach the next dog, leash, and then we go to the door. Now, I have talked off camera about I make the dog sit before I go out the door, and there's other things that we talked about off camera. But what we've achieved is the dog being completely calm while we pick up the leash, while we go to the door. And if we do this right, we should walk out the door. The dog should have about the energy level that they have now. They're going to be much better, easier to listen to us, much more in control, and you're going to enjoy the walks if your dogs will actually listen to you. One of the guardians mentioned off camera that he's not a big fan of the walks because the dogs are so excited they're pulling all over the leash. Now, pulling on leash is a habit. This isn't going to stop that, but it will make it a lot more manageable. Well, this over here is Stanley. There you go, Stanley. And Henry is back on the couch probably. And these are some tips and tricks. There's Henry. These are some tips and tricks you can use if your dog gets really excited as you pull out the leash.